post getting separated and post getting divorced, was the fact that obviously it sounds very cliche, but it was the solid foundation of my faith. And everyone here, I'm just assuming, hence you're in order called saved and single, and you do have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and you are saved. But where I want to go with that idea and that perspective is simply this: the foundation of all your choices should be, as Paul says in 1 Corinthians 6, 19 and 20, specifically in this context in relationships, because one thing that's not spoken about in relationships in this type of context, in the fact that you're all single, is the fact that it's keeping yourself in line with the Lord and sexual purity, because it's such a massive, tremendous temptation to walk outside your faith, to walk outside of every single person in this room here has a story. Why you're single, why you're divorced, why you're separated, well, not separated, but you understand the point. Why you have previous relationships, whatever the case may be. Maybe you're young, maybe you're not, maybe you're around my age or older. But the reality is that one of the things that I made and set out to do when I sent that letter to Michelle, is I needed to be concise. It wasn't a selling point. It wasn't what can I get to reel in the next woman down the track. The poignant words that I said were convictions of my heart. And no matter what, like I jokingly said earlier, I saw her picture, she's absolutely beautiful. But that had no bearing on my choice. When you're picking your next mate, possibly your future husband or wife, there is no compromise. And I can even tell you and I can be transparent for about a moment without getting into the details. I found myself in years past in a small 3-year pocket where I walked outside the obedience of the Lord. And I put myself in a position where, and there's nothing more penetrating and painful. You talk about relationships, hence the idea, there's no more important relationship than your relationship with Jesus Christ. And when that relationship goes south, it's this: when you don't have your relationship in vertical, all horizontal relationships are out of bounds, because you're never going to get to a place where you need to be right. Because the fact that you're outside the framework of God's plan, you're not going to be in a frame of mind to make right choices. So I encourage you on that note that where you're at, where you need to be, Christ has to be the foundation. And just saying that sounds cliche, but in reality, that foundation needs to be grounded in Jesus Christ. So there's no better way. And when I saw Michelle, when I began to talk to her, and I saw the criteria there, and I'm just going to tell you very briefly and then what I have to say. And I'll say this concisely, and she's on the same page that I am. I can tell you concretely, because I knew, and I say this from a perspective of humility, I knew I was in alignment with Jesus Christ. I knew my relationship with God was on board. I knew where I was spiritually, and I wasn't wavering in my faith as I did in years past. And God blessed me with someone such as Michelle. But more importantly, what I wanted to tell you is, I prayed specific prayers for the kind of woman I need, the kind of woman I want. Beauty wasn't even on the list. The most beautiful thing you can ever find is, there's nothing, I always say this way, speaking from a male perspective, there's nothing more, I can say that we're all adults, there's nothing more sexy, there's nothing more attractive, there's nothing more hot about a woman, or in your case, if you're a female, about a man, than a woman who loves Jesus Christ. Period. So, and my very single prayer that I prayed, and I'll try to be as quick as I can here, is that I prayed that I wanted my first foremost, and this may be effective for you, the first thing I prayed, I could not be without a woman of prayer. And this woman kills it. She's a prayer warrior, but they're trying to sound cliche. She's amazing. So and what I'm getting to is, I had a list of things, and I won't go into all the long details of the list, but I will, quote unquote, for lack of better words, sell you on the idea that before you do anything, make sure you have your criteria set out in which a man